Hey everyone, this is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome to the Mad Science Lab. You can find my work at the League Winners, King Fantasy Sports, DLF, and Player Profiler with my rankings available on FantasyPros. Catch me on Twitter at FF Mad Scientist. Today in the Mad Science Lab, we're going to be continuing on my rookie series, trying to do one per day. I got an analyst on, and they give us our three guys that they're higher than consensus on. Today, I'm joined by Britt Sanders. Britt, thank you for joining me. Would you like to tell the people a little bit about yourself, where they can find you?
What's happening, Aaron? It's good to be here. Finally, I was actually a little concerned I wasn't going to get a best guest appearance this year. I was getting a little sad.
Best intro ever, though. Way to come hot.
You have to throw in a line into the Twitter pool. You can find me on Twitter at @VFFSandman. I have my Rookie on the Rise podcast available on your favorite podcasting stream. It's different this year, but we go over all the important rookies similar to this one. I also have predictive measures of success, which you can find on the Devy to Dynasty dashboard podcast channel. I write for Breakout Finder and FantasyPros, and I think that's everything. Honestly, it's been so wild with the Masters program and school and wedding stuff and everything else. I'm just hanging on by a thread here, trying to even remember what people's names are. But I'm happy to be here because this is the first class I've been actually finally able to start the entire process through college. So I feel like I know these guys intimately, like my brothers and sisters and friends.
You're like me, man. When I first started, I was like, hey, I'm Aaron. And now it's like, Aaron, I do this and this and this. And I've got like cheat sheets on how to introduce myself. And then I've got like, here's my guest at this time. Here's where he works. Here's the place. I've got so much going on. And then I'm raising an 8-year-old by myself. It's just, I assume I have no memory left, and I resort to cheat sheets on everything. So I'm glad you introduced yourself, because
it's a laundry list, baby.
Yeah, I can't remember who I am and where I work, let alone who you are and where you work. And then even as I'm sitting there, I'm going, I knew that. And I'm going, oh shit, he writes there too. That's awesome. That's cool. And then you look back. I had a guy tweeted at me like maybe 10 minutes ago, and I was like, why do I recognize this guy? And I looked at him like, shit, I was on that podcast last week. There's too many people, and they all message you. And they message you on Sleeper, and they message you on Twitter, and then YouTube, and they all have different names.
There should be a law in the Twitter fantasy football realm that your handle needs to stay the same across all platforms.
Mine does. I'm Mad Scientist everywhere.
It's just
because I don't know how many times where I'll have someone reply on Twitter and say, on Sleeper and say, hey, I'd love to be on the show. And then I'm like, okay. And I'm like, who the hell are you on Twitter? And I can't find them. And they're like, oh, I'm Bob from here. And I'm going, oh, holy shit. Okay, thanks. No.
Yeah, no kidding. Good stuff.
All right, well, let's get into it. I've got your first guy queued up here. I'll introduce him for you. His first my guy is Iowa State wide receiver Xavier Hutchinson, checking in at 6'2", 203 pounds. I have him as a 4.5 340 time. These can be subject to, a little bit of variance depending on who the hand timer was, what site I got it from. He's a guy I wanted to start with because he doesn't have that much hype on him. I haven't written about him anywhere. Aside from the fact that he looks like he has alpha wide receiver size and speed, I don't know all that much about him. He's kind of lower in my draft board, so I'm going to leave it to you to convince everyone of why he's a good pick.
So let me see if I can help out here. I understand that Xavier Hutchinson, prior to coming in, like in the college cycle, is kind of an enigma of a person, mostly because Iowa State, but he has the size, he has like that ideal like alpha profile, right? The issue is he's not an alpha, and that's weird to be like, one of my guys just isn't an alpha, and that's how this works. But I'm thinking from like a value perspective in Dynasty, where can I get guys in the second round that are going to be giving me similar production to guys in the first round, right? And everybody loves JSN, right? But like JSN's, and it pains me to say,
he's probably not an alpha either, though. But
exactly, like he's going to have
Devonta Smith. He wasn't. Right. Devonta Smith isn't an alpha, but he's a great fantasy asset.
Right, and like so, JSN's going to have an incredible ceiling, right? Nothing against JSN. Not even saying Hutchinson is JSN, but like if you like that prototype, then you have to like the big slot prototype, which is going to be Xavier Hutchinson. All right, so I'm a numbers guy. I don't really do film. Hutchinson's passed the eye test, and that's all anyone ever needs to do. But what I do love about him is he had a freshman breakout at 25 point, or he had a freshman breakout at 23%. He had
Dominator?
A freshman breakout dominator.
I figured that's what you were getting at.
Breakout with a dominator of 23.1%.
Yeah.
His then 2 years, 2021 and 2022, he had a dominator rating over 30%, which is really, really good. And if you talk to RotoViz, they would consider that a breakout age. So he graduated in skill, or he graduated in like his levels of production both years after that. And then you look at like my favorite efficiency metrics: receiving yards per team pass attempt and yards per route run. He was consistently over 2 yards per route run his entire collegiate career. And he was over 2 receiving yards per team over his entire college career. Now, it is worth noting the reason why he isn't higher on people's boards is he's from Iowa State, and from Iowa State comes out that as a receiver. Well, anyone knows Iowa State because of Breece Hall, right? But knowing is this guy is going to be a target hog in the NFL, mostly because he's going to just give you that possession receiver profile. Like Brandon Marshall, I think, is like the premier possession receiver of like what you can have in your fantasy football. Like the dude is just an absolute dog forever. And
he is. Sorry, go ahead.
I think Hutchinson has a really good opportunity to deliver, perhaps not Brandon Marshall level of production, but like you're going to be able to get him back end of the second, early third. Nobody knows who he is. And granted, this is pre-draft capital. So if he falls in fourth, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to take him earlier, but you're going to take him over the likes of Jalen Hyatt. You're going to take him over the likes of Rashee Rice, Marvin Mims, maybe not Marvin Mims, but like after Marvin Mims and Josh Downs, the list thins out really, really poorly. And Xavier Hutchinson is just sitting there with prototypical size, good size, and a really good production profile. And no one's freaking talking about him. And I think it's just a little bit of helmet scouting bias and the fact that like he didn't wow at the combine.
See, for me, he's someone where he was ranked so low in rookie rankings that I didn't do a deep dive into his film, but he's on my short list of guys pending draft capital. If he gets good draft capital, he's going to be one of my guys to go deeper into because I'm a spreadsheet warrior. So I've got my metrics at height, weight, 40 time, breakout age. He just, when I did the rankings, my athletic score rankings similar to the RAS, just I tweaked it a few different ways. He graded out so similar just because he checks so many boxes. So for me, he's definitely on the end of my radar, and he's going to be a guy where if he gets no draft capital, I'm probably not going to do too much of a deep dive into him. But if he sneaks into, say, round 3 or even early day 3, he's someone where I'm like, okay, the NFL sees something too in his athleticism, and I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to dive deeper into that boring Iowa State. I almost said Ohio State just because I hate them so much. But I'm going to have to go back into that Iowa State film to see what it is I've missed because he checks every box. Where do you have him in your wide receiver rankings?
You know, I don't have a firm wide receiver rankings right now because I'm taking a new approach to the rookies this year, given the lack of time I have.
Wait till the draft?
Not waiting till the draft. I'm gonna have some probably next week. I'll have like a top 10 list, but I'm really trying to like simmer and think about it from an outside perspective and like condense my process as much as possible. Like, what are the key points? Who hits those points, tier them out, and then rank them based on just like my personal favorite of things like that. So right now, I would think he's probably wide receiver 7-ish. I think I got QJ at 6 and Tillman at 5. So right around that 5 to 7 range, I think is where I'll probably have Hutchinson.
All right, I like it. We will move on. Excuse me. The next guy on his list is Syracuse running back Sean Tucker, checking in at only 5'9", but 270 pounds with a 4.54 40 time. I like Tucker. He's higher on my board than most. My question is, why the hell didn't he help himself and transfer to a better offense?
I wish I could give you an answer. And part of me
Loyalty?
thinks, yeah, I mean, it's impossible, right? Because I don't know, but like Occam's razor says that like the simplest answer is the most reasonable. So I would suggest that more likely than not, it's just the fact that was his home. He liked it.
Comfortable, his family, yeah.
Exactly. And he just seems like the type of guy, just like from his Twitter posts, a very humble person. And so like, he seems like the type of person that he would rather like succeed with his guys and his boys than perhaps like succeed at a better competitive school. And I love this guy, man. Like one of my first Devy profiles was about Sean Tucker and how he was going to make that sophomore leap out after his freshman year and all this stuff. And he's done nothing on the field but excel. He had he had a rougher year in 2022, but he also is a bit more banged up. He had a couple lower body injuries he was dealing with the whole season. And I stand by this. I will forever stand by this. If he would have been able to test at the combine, he would be where Izzy is right now in most people rankings. The dude is a track freak. He's an absolute stud. He did his own personal workout on Twitter, which take that as you will, because the NFL won't allow him due to his medical stuff. But like, he had a laser timer of 4.33 or 4.35, something like that. So like, okay, you adjust that. He's a 4.4 runner at 200 and was that 5 pounds, 207 pounds. So that fucking works, right? And you know, it makes me so sad because like, who just cleared medicals? I think Hooker just cleared medicals last week, and Tucker still hasn't cleared medicals. And so I just get this really gut sinking feeling that he's going to be a 4th or 5th round guy simply due to the medical profile. I haven't checked his top 30 visits, so I really hope teams are bringing him in and figuring it out. He claims it's going to be settled and figured out, but I haven't heard anything official. But when just looking at him as a prospect, the dude is an absolute monster of a player. Like he completely just obliterated the backfield once he had it. He had a dominator rating of 22% his freshman year, 43% his sophomore year, and 32% his junior year. He had a yards per team attempt of 3.11 as a career high. He was almost always above 2. The dude, he's just, I love everything about him. He can pass, he can catch, he can run. He's exceptionally loose. He's very elusive. He makes some questionable decisions. He's not the most efficient runner, and his pass blocking at times offers a little bit more to yearn, but he is willing to do it, and that is the biggest freaking hurdle to do. And he's one of my favorite guys. And I just had a post before we reached out on our group, and I was saying, you know, Kendra Miller and Sean Tucker are guys that I'm just going to take regardless of draft capital. Like I love him. This is this year's Dameon Pierce for me. Like I hated Dameon Pierce, but like I understood people did, and they said, F it. Like I'm going to take him regardless. These are my guys. 5th round, 6th round, like I'm still taking Tucker though.
I don't feel Pierce is like I hated Pierce. I don't hate Tucker. He's going at, I should have mentioned, Hutchinson on Superflex ADP is going at 40. Tucker's going at 22. So I've been getting him in the back end of the 2nd, early 3rd, and I love that because I think had he transferred to Syracuse in a better offense and had he cleared medicals, I think he's the consensus RB3 in that scenario. You'll see next, Zach Charbonnet. He's going at 11. I love getting Tucker at 22. Yeah. I think I take Tucker at 22 over Charbonnet at 11. I think Tucker's a comparable player, and I'll buy the injury concern. I don't think it's much of a concern, but I'll buy the injury discount and the Syracuse discount all day. I love this guy. And at 22, I'm going to own a lot of Sean Tucker.
Yeah, I completely agree. He is my running back 3 right now. I have more solidified running back 3 running back ranks than wide receiver ranks, and Tucker's going to stay at 3 until draft capital, and that's just how my top 5, top 6 is absolutely locked in. Just because
my top 2 is obviously Bijan and Gibbs. I don't even talk about. I have I think 3, 4, 5, 6. I have Roschon, Kendre, Tucker, Charbonnet, and they're all interchangeable based on draft capital, but I think that's my 2nd tier. So I could see him as high as RB3, as low as RB6. You know, I mean, if the medicals are that scary and he slips to day 3, he could slip a lot lower, obviously. Absolutely. Draft capital's everything, but for now, I've got him solidly in the 2nd tier there.
I will forever stand on the soapbox for this man. He's absolutely one of my favorite players, and he's the one person that I just will... I don't do these trades where it's like, I need to have this guy, I'm going to sell the farm for him. I will sell the farm for Sean Tucker. I don't need to because he's cheap, but I fucking love this guy, and I want to be 100% overweight on him.
I do too. All right. Well, I guess that transitions into your last my guy here, slightly higher ranked. He has UCLA running back Zach Charbonnet, formerly of Michigan. Oh, excuse me. Too much pop this morning, making me burp. Formerly of Michigan. Checking in at 6 foot even, 214 pounds. So he's definitely bigger. 4.54 40 times. So he's got some speed to him. He is a guy where I am probably lower than most. I am a Michigan fan. Hated him at Michigan. That could probably be the fault of Jim Harbaugh and not necessarily himself. But for now, I normally don't get Zach Charbonnet. He's going anywhere between 109 and 201, and I typically would just rather draft a Roschon, Tucker, Zay Flowers. He's just never a guy I get. I don't hate him. That year at Michigan, I'm not a big fan. But
I can't blame you. He
what
looked
do you
awful.
like about him?
He looked awful at Michigan. He was a Devy darling as a freshman. He had a decent freshman season. His sophomore season was just bizarre and erratic, and he hardly got the ball.
Well, Harbaugh.
Yeah,
Jim Harbaugh.
He had the Harbaugh effect, right? He
Yeah.
He comes over to the west side. Chip Kelly brings him in like his best friend and his long lost son, and Chip Kelly just injects him full of fucking Superman juice, and the man just transforms. This is his metamorphosis of a shitty little caterpillar to a gorgeous butterfly at UCLA. He just absolutely slams and does so much. And I don't disagree with you. Like there's a bunch of albatross plays in this class, and I'm doing a startup right now with a bunch of Devy guys, and Charbonnet went running back 13. And I'm like, damn, I thought I could get him like running back 18, running back 19. He's definitely at that height. Like he's my running back. He's my running back 2 right now because he has the size, he has the pass catching chops, he has a production profile. He has the speed. Like he checks all the boxes I need to check. And so given the expected draft capital, he's a guy that I'm going to have ranked highly. Now, I'm similar to you. Do I necessarily want to spend high draft capital on him? We'll see.
It's going to depend if the NFL spends high draft capital on him. I will get past my Harbaugh insecurities and I will buy in a little more. But for now, like I said, he's in that tier 2 group with me where I'm just waiting for draft capital. I think this year's draft is going to change player like rookie rankings more than any year prior.
I agree. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I really like Charbonnet. I think just he is there's probably like 5 or 6 guys after Bijan, 4 to 5 guys that have that size, speed, pass catching ability that are in like my tier 2. Jahmyr Gibbs is in tier 2 just because he's Jahmyr Gibbs and I'm not going to disrespect him that much. But like Charbonnet's up there just because it's sort of like I don't have any other options. Like I'm not like it's weird to say like I don't have any other options. So you're my guy, but like I love the guy. He's elusive, and it drives me nuts. Like he's elusive. I'm sorry. He's strong lateral agility. So if people say they don't have strong lateral agility, ask them to go watch more games because they're not watching the right ones. He's been productive his last 2 years in UCLA. He's also shown diversity. I wish I could remember who brought this up on a podcast. It's a great point. I think it was on Pat Fitzmaurice's podcast. But he's shown diversity in 2 different polar opposite schemes between Chip Kelly and John Harbaugh. And so Jim Harbaugh, sorry. But like he's shown that scheme diversity, and NFL teams are going to freaking love that. I would bet a pretty penny that he's a 2nd-round draft pick, probably the 4th or 5th running back off the board. He's just an absolute monster, and I'm really excited to get him on my team if I'm able to. Honestly, if I'm looking like at a draft value-wise, once like pick 7, pick 8 roll along, I'm probably going to be eyeing Jack Charbonnet just because I don't want to take shots on a Quentin Johnson or a Josh Downs in that range there.
And that's where I think his value could go up so much in rookie drafts, whether with the exception of JSN, Gibbs, Bijan, the wide receivers, even the quarterbacks, but the wide receivers and the running backs in this draft class, there's a lot of them that either profile to be just slot receivers or just, perimeter, 3rd down, pass catching backs. There aren't very many. There's no there's very few well-rounded alpha wide receivers, and there's very few potential 3-down backs. And I think NFL teams could look at Zach Charbonnet, and he could go conceivably early to mid-second for me. I think the NFL might tell us they like him a lot more than the fantasy community, and we may have to move him up into, I don't think he gets higher than maybe RB3 in rookie rankings, but he could be there in the 2nd tier with Gibbs.
Yeah. I mean, he is there for me, right? And if you go on the Rookie on the Rise podcast, me and Dallas talked about Zach Charbonnet for about 18 minutes, just absolutely gushing over him. And this was before the combine even, and that's when he kind of started catching that fire, is when he surprised folks with his speed. And so I think that if you want a little bit deeper dive, because Dallas has been on Zach Charbonnet for a couple of years as well, that's a really good opportunity to go and check him out, because I'm such a fan of his game. And like, I'm not high on this class in general, but like these guys are guys that I think it just comes down to like your risk tolerance. The entire class is like a risk tolerance test. And for me, Zach Charbonnet is a relatively safe pick. Do I think he has running back 1 potential for multiple years? No one really does in this class, to be honest. But like, he has that possibility of like it being a workhorse, and that is more than enough for me to go and spend some decent draft capital on him.
He's definitely going to be someone who warrants a closer look and maybe rearranging in the rankings come draft day. All right, that concludes our My Guys for Britt Sanders. Thank you for joining me. Why don't you take another chance to tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at the FF Sandman. I have a link tree. I forgot about that. It has all the things that I do. I'm in the midst of my Rookie on the Rise production. Again, like I said, it's different because of the master's program, but I've got 3.5 months here that have opened up for wedding and vacation and things like that. No school, so I'll be able to spend more time on that. And then I'll jumpstart my predictive measures of success podcast over on the Devy to Dynasty dashboard channel, which you can just type in Devy to Dynasty dashboard, I believe, or Devy to Dynasty to Devy. Dear God, I don't fucking know,
I'm
man.
glad you tried
it's
it.
so
I would have never
confusing.
gotten that.
I'm just like, this shit. I tell him every day. It's Brandon Lejeune. I say, Brandon, your title's too goddamn confusing. Can you just call it like Triple D or some shit like that? Or you can't call it Double D, but like you want to call it Double D.
That's why I've changed mine to the Mad Science Lab because I kept getting tongue twisted going, the Fantasy Football Mad Scientist podcast. I'm sitting there going, fuck, I don't even know the name of my own bloody show.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's the Devy to Dynasty Football Podcast. See, dear God.
D to D Football
D
Podcast.
to D. You can
That's
also
you
just
the
type
D to D.
The D to D.
But you type that in on Google, you're gonna get some fucked up results. So maybe not.
Not safe for work, right? Not safe for work.
Yeah,
but
so.
you can find. I'm gonna be popping up there, and I just talk about our Devy people from an analytical perspective because that's my home and my place of love. And then, as always, I'm here on Twitter. I'm here to talk about whatever you want to talk about. To be completely honest. And thank you for having me on. I really appreciate this. This was a ton of fun.
You're
and
welcome.
I do want to say, I always like to finish off podcasts, but make sure you go tell your loved ones how much they're appreciated and how much they're loved. Life is short. Life is fickle. Life is kind of fucked up. You never really know what's going to happen, and don't let stupid little grudges hold this over. So go reach out. It's going to take you 3 minutes. You're already on your phone. I know you. And just tell them, hey, I love you, thinking about you. Let's get together, whatever it is. Go make somebody's day. You'll feel better, and you'll make them feel better.
Very true. It's been a pleasure, Britt. Thank you for joining me. That concludes Britt's My Guys for the day. Check in every day. We're going to try and do one of these My Guy episodes per day up until the draft. I'm Aaron St. Dennis at FF Mad Scientist on Twitter. You can find me at the League Winners, King Fantasy Sports, DLF, and Player Profiler, as well as FantasyPros for my expert rankings. Thank you for tuning in. Take care, everyone.
Peace.